At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
And I am Ansony Sieh in yet another edition of the Hour of Politics at this network. Focus on Liberia, and as you heard, we educate, we elevate, and we promote all things our dear country, Liberia. Welcome to the broadcast, and do me that favor, show me some love. The only contribution we always ask is that you share the broadcast with somebody you know will listen, will watch, and also will share, because the national dialogue, we must get going. We cannot and should not never stop talking about our country. We should not stop holding our leaders accountable. One thing I believe is, when you know the problem that you are in, then you stand a better chance of finding the solution. Because there are people in the world who have expertise in so many areas. So if you know your problem is medical, then you know that you have to go to a medical doctor. And if you know that that problem it's not a medical problem, maybe it's technological, then you go to the guy who knows technology. If your problem is governance, then you look for leaders who will be able to govern you. And so we have history, we have individuals that we can point to who, when that time came, were able to rise to the occasion of leadership, to be able to stir the affairs of some nations, and then they took them from nothingness, and then they took them somewhat very much appreciable. Is that possible with our country, Liberia? And the answer is a resounding yes, it is possible. But it is obvious, folks, very obvious and very noticeable, that it has become much more daunting and challenging and even near impossible to find leaders in Liberia coming forth and executing the issue of governance for the benefit of the Liberian people. And so I know that it has been depressing. I know it has been discouraging. I'm not here to lecture you. I'm not here to give you a motivational speech. I'm here to do an analysis. I'm here to give you a glance of where we are, the political state of affairs in our nation. You need to know, dear brothers and sisters, fellow countrymen and women, you need to know where we are, how serious the issues are. Knowing that will put us in the better state of mind, and maybe we will start asking the right questions, and that would lead us to making the right decisions and even influencing decisions through our family members and friends. So that Liberia, one day and pretty soon, as I wish, and maybe you wish too, will start the journey of a forward march that benefits its people. And so let us get started. My topic for today's Hour of Politics: monumental glance of the political state of affairs in Liberia. When the Englishman says something is monumental, it means that it is of great magnitude. When the Englishmen say that something is monumental, and if you are a crewman who goes Satya, it means when they say the crewman is going Satya, that means he's trying to speak big bulk. So when we're talking about the monumental glance of the political state of affairs in Liberia, there are things that are happening that give us a unique sense of this monumental glance, of this significant, piece of something that is happening in the era of governance that is a semblance, that is an example of how we as a nation, we are at a daunting crossroad. So let us look at a few of those monumental things that together constitute a monumental glance of the nation's political state of affairs. One issue that we all have been grappling with for some time now is the issue of census. Folks, I will be brief and concise as possible. We should have had this census since 2018. Census is required by law. It is a constitutional requirement that every 10 years we should conduct a census, because over a period of 10 years, it's obvious the population of Liberia will experience a significant growth. So we need to know how many persons we are. Not only that, the census will also tell us how many Liberians are employed. That way we take the issue of job creation serious. When people are unemployed in a country, it is a monumental indication that they are living in poverty. How can a man feed a family if he does not have a job? Now, the census will also tell her how many Liberians are either doing something and not doing something. It will give her a unique glance of the economic conditions in the country. How many Liberians are employed? How many Liberians not employed? How many Liberians are doing business or businesses? How many Liberians who are in school? How many Liberians who are not in school? How many men and women do we have? How many boys and girls do we have? How much access do we have to health care? How much access do we have to education? The census data will inform us as a nation, and then we can use that information to plan better. The information will inform us that as a country, we are in a precarious situation. That we have X amount of our citizens, future leaders who are not in school, and those who are not in school as well. How many breadwinners or people of working age who are not working? That will inform us that we have even a much bigger trouble. It's obvious to know when you enter Monrovia, when you go around in Liberia, you see people are unemployed. People are just roaming the streets and hustling. You see the type of jobs or hustling, that we see in Liberia. Kids are selling cold water. You see young men are riding pempen and keked. Women are in the market, some selling oranges, some doing roasted cassava, roasted or corn. So all of these things give us a sense that this is a country that is economically challenged beyond measures. And we cannot say that is enough to inform us of the nation's state of affairs in terms of the economy. The census will be able to put together the accurate data, and we will not only be basing on assumption because we see with our eyes. All right. What we see, what we experience will be confirmed by the data that will be collected. And so the information going to be used, to plan development and also used to play emphasis where we need to play emphasis in the area of education and all that. So the census has been a very significant constitutional mandate that we as a nation needed to take very seriously. And so talking about the census, this constitutional mandate has been violated over and over again because the leaders who are in charge, either they are incompetent, either they don't take the job serious, and you name it, ineptitude, and most of all, above it, or I should put it this way, corruption has, engulfed the entity charged with that statutory role to conduct the housing and population census. And why these accusations and counter accusation of money being moved here and there, some diverted for personal use, and we don't see any serious leadership. We don't see the urgency for our leaders, to really step in and avert the situation. And the postponement of the census year after year, the conventional understanding of wisdom was that, well, this is a serious national or undertaking, and so it's obvious that the leaders, looking at the magnitude and the seriousness of this national undertaking, want to make sure that the necessary preparations are put into place, that those who will carry on the work are trained, and that they will gather all the resources needed. More so when they are talking about doing a biometric census, something that we have not done before. So you needed to train people to operate the technology. You needed to get the technological pieces that has been used to collect the data. And so many things, needed to be taken into the serious consideration, so that this process once and for all will be done, so that we can collect the data that we need for national planning. And so they postpone it. And one who have thought that because maybe they didn't have the people trained, maybe they didn't have all the technology needed, and then they will postpone it again. And maybe we will say, well, maybe it's because of money. And donors have agreed to give some money. The bigger picture I want you to look at here is this is a nation that claims to have leaders. We have leaders who think they know what they're doing. So they have miserably failed us on census after they have had a significant amount of time, 4 solid years of planning. And yet the census was marked by chaos on day one, despite a holiday being declared for Liberians to sit home, so that those who were charged and hired or contracted and trained to conduct the process would be able to go in the field and do so. Now, the training was another thing. There have been news that the training was not properly done. The recruitment was also selective. It was marked by chaos. This is a nation that have had over 4 years back and forth preparation, collecting raising of revenue, training of people to conduct a census. Despite that significant amount of time, the legislature was involved, the executive branch of government was involved, the institution responsible for the conduct was involved, and yet all of our institutions, all right, involved with the planning and execution of this national undertaking, fail us miserably. Despite having 4 solid years to plan, to train, to collect or gather the resources and the tools that they would need, for 4 years they have been on this one planning. to conduct the census. Here we are, we know the census is a failure of the first order. We have had our reporters in the communities as we speak. This morning we have one of our reporters in Banga, Bon County. And Liberians are, some people say the process is going on. They are saying they're seeing them, they're moving from home to home. But the citizens, like they don't have interest. And the reason is that there was a very poor sensitization done. The publicity was near zero. I'm not sure if any serious publicity was done for a national undertaking to not have received the necessary publicity and education. The nation did not prepare its citizens for a serious national undertaking. The nation did not adequately inform its citizens for a serious national undertaking. Our leaders did not inform its citizens of a national undertaking. They all dragged their feet. Those who were in charge felt that this was some kind of a meaningless process that they could just rush in the field and get done. Why am I painting this picture? I'm painting this picture to show you that this country, Liberia, is in trouble when it comes to leadership. It is not only at the executive, it is not only at the legislature, it is within our communities. It is with us in our homes. It is within our serfs. When we are given a task, when we have a responsibility to execute, we drag our feet. We treat the responsibility as not being a serious responsibility. And what we do is we disgrace ourselves, we disgrace our country, and we become a laughing stock. This is pathetic. 4 years, a sitting and elected government fail miserably on a constitutional responsibility. So that brings me to my topic, a monumental glance of the political state of affairs in Liberia. If this is not monumental in giving you an insight that the country Liberia lack leaders who will move the country, who will give the country a paradigm shift, who will bring the nation to the point of seriousness, who will respect the citizens of Liberia and engage them and see them as partners in this thing called national governance and development. If this is not a unique and perfect mirror for you to see so clearly that we as a people, more so our leaders, have been nothing but a letdown, then I don't know what is ever going to give you that picture. Corruption has given you a unique picture, right? But that is greed. Somebody having an insatiable desire for material wealth uses government, and because of that access, that person accumulates wealth at the displeasure, at the dissatisfaction of the people they have been privileged to serve. So I understand that. But if you are taking so much money in this faction and magnitude, and this includes the president of the republic, who is inherently and mindlessly corrupt to the core. So, folks, if this doesn't give you that picture, that mirror to see this nation, that this nation is not being led, and that its people are not engaged, are not respected, that its leaders does not see the people as their bosses that they need to serve, And the people, they display a lack of patriotism. A patriot will treat a constitutional responsibility with due diligence to execute it so that his nation will be proud of the service he's been privileged to provide. The president have heard news of corruption, allegations of corruption, alleges, and yet he drags his feet. The president calls for a holiday on day one of census. When he was out of the country, he will remain out of the country, and based on the timetable of the census shall have been conducted or completed, or will have been completed. The president will not be counted. So the president is out. His participation is out of a process that he, as an executive branch of government, is charged to execute. What does that tell you? Your people should be counted. You should be an example as a leader of the country. You are telling your people to be part of the process. And then you are out of the country. You are not an example. To make matters worse, people are literally stealing the money, moving money from one bank account to the other. We have about $160,000 given to an employee of the Ministry of Finance to conduct what they call publicity. This is coming from the finance minister, that his Peking in the Liberian Palace, who works at the Ministry of Finance, uses his Facebook page for publicity for a national undertaking. When we have media institutions who can reach millions and thousands of people, who Liberians across the globe follow, they will not engage the media institution. A certain government is telling us that it dealt with a citizen in its employ, and that citizen uses his Facebook page as a tool or platform for publicity to inform Liberians across the world about a national census. This is the picture that you need to see, fellow countrymen and women and global citizens of the world. This nation with the beautiful flag is in trouble and is looking for leadership. So while we have this failure on our hands, folks, Joel Howard Taylor, who is the current vice president of the Republic of Liberia, he came to the nation's defense. She came to her administration's defense. So she is saying that, yeah, she admitted during her interaction with the media that indeed Liberia is experiencing one of the most difficult times in its history. According to Joel Howard Taylor, there are challenging times, and she said these challenging times are serious in Liberia. She admitted that. And she went on to lecture us that in history, challenging times test the souls of men, the soul of men. And that it is in these challenging times that great miracle is born. I'm using her exact words. So Joel Howard Taylor is admitting that there's so much hardship in Liberia. There are so many challenges in our country. But she said challenging times are meant to test the soul of men. Has her soul been tested? Is it now that she knows that there are challenging times? I thought she said it was their time to enjoy, to eat. So she knows. She has been in the country. She is a leader. She heard about this, accusation one postponement after the other of the census. In fact, she participated in the postponement because she is the president of the Senate. It is the legislature that been extending the sanction. I mean, the census, all because they felt that they needed to do all the necessary preparation and find other funding. My understanding is that the Liberian government has always budgeted around $3 million, whether or not the finance ministry or any other institution charged with the responsibility of collecting the funds intended for the census, whether they collected that funds and placed the money into the census account is another thing to know. What did she do? What did she say? So now she is telling us that the census is on course, even though there are so many challenges with paying contractors, with training, with recruitment, the use of technology, deployment, and all that. She is admitting all these things now, things that she, as a serious leader, should have taken serious. If she's supposed to be a serious leader, she should have taken serious to step in and ensure that the training and everything needed to have a successful census who have been put into place in the first place. Did she do that? Now she is now committing after the game. This is a disaster. This is a monumental failure that gives us a glance of the political state of affairs in Liberia. No, folks, tell me this. Hear me well. So we have 4 years to prepare for this census. It failed miserably. Look at Liberia, a country that is not accessible. It is not accessible. In some parts of Liberia, during the reading season time, it can be near impossible to travel. These people, I think they have about 10 days to conduct the census. In 10 days, are they going to reach every village and every hamlet in our country? How come Manager Howard Taylor did not know that this is a serious national undertaking that will require men and women reaching to every village to count every Liberian? She's not talking now. And she's talking about challenging time test the soul of man. Where is her soul? I want to see her soul. This is a supposed to be leader in our country. She is one, as a matter of fact, but supposed to be leader in the true sense of who a leader should be. But she has not been. She occupies the office. She enjoys the purse of the responsibility of the office. But the duties and responsibility, the vision, the leadership that she needed or she needs to bring to bear, befitting the office of vice president. I don't know if somebody is stopping her. I don't think somebody is stopping her at the legislature, where she is the president of the Senate, where she has the power and the privilege and the opportunity as a woman to lobby with those men and women in that place to make the right decision. Where has she been? In the past, she complained about how she's been treated. She was crying baby. And guess what? Talking about that tough time test the souls of men and women, are women there. Her budget now has grown up to 3 million. Over 2 million, I should pull it right. At 3 billion, yes, 3 million. Joel Howard Taylor budget has gone to 3 million. Where is her soul? All right. The office of the vice president, where are all the things that she has to do for which she's taking a 3 million in the budget? When the very 3 million is the same amount the Liberian government allots for the conduct of census in Liberia. 18 million plus for the entire job to be done. And they are counting on so-called development partners who are actually foreigners to foot the bills of what is supposed to be a constitutional mandate of a serious country if Liberia is supposed to be one. The vice president takes an equal amount for her yearly undertaking as a budget. then an entire institution responsible to cover the length and breadth of the country to undertake a national responsibility gets the same $3 million. And she knows that money is insignificant for the conduct of census, but she looks up to so-called partners. And that means that Liberia is begging other people for its own job to be done. This is sad. Do you see the glance? So let me pin the picture a little more here. So we have had 4 years to do all the preparation with all our leaders sitting idle by. It has failed. Monumentally, it has failed. Miserably, it has become a fiasco. The numbers will not be accurate. So talk to me about election that is coming in 2023. As we speak, the National Election Board was inducted by the LACC. Howbeit, they carry on some legal technicalities, she's off the hook. The CDC as a government, the political arm of the CDC, they know what they're doing, I would suppose. So they had like threatened this woman with dismissal. At some point, David Ethel Brown Lasana was fighting for her life. She wanted a job, as she's always would. And she got saved, so she feels now that she was done a huge favor. Indicted by LACC, she went to court, she filed a bond, and somehow, on technical ground, quote unquote, she's cut loose legally. She was at an embarrassing point. She should have been dismissed because the laws are clear. She had awarded a contract to her brother, which constitute conflict of interest according to the act that was created in 2014. That is the Code of Conduct. That was a violation of the Code of Conduct. That had put her in a category of not worthy to continue that responsibility at an integrity institution. Her behavior fell short of integrity, and yet she stays on. CDC has done her the biggest favor. She needs to return the favor. And so we saw what happened in Lofa County with the by-elections. The numbers were all over the place. They were not adding up. Some other candidates were appearing on a tally sheet, all right, 2-3 times. So, folks, this is a country that is in a disastrous state when it comes to national leadership. All across our institutions, leges, noise, neck, noise. The Americans are saying now, those who have been sanctioned by the U.S. government through the Magnitsky Act, those people, anyone doing business with them, risks being sanctioned as well. They are speaking diplomatically here, even though in clear terms. Now, in Liberia, the upcoming election, the donor country that will be contributing the most in terms of money for the election is the United States government. Clear, no question about that. The U.S. has serious interest in what goes on in Liberia, especially the upcoming election. In other words, the U.S. government will be financing the upcoming election significantly. The U.S. government that sanctioned Mange, Betwewe, Prince Johnson, and Vani Sharma. These 4 individuals, it's obvious, have interest in the upcoming election. So America has sanctioned these people of bad behavior, corruption. And the very America now should finance an election that will see these people elected and back into government, the government in which the Americans do not want to see these individuals. The American might exercise discretion by saying, whoa, we are not going to finance an election that we see the likes of Prince Johnson, Betwawe, Nathaniel Magay, and maybe Vani Sherman running. It's like we are doing everything to elect these people because the process will be funding, will be the process that will bring them into government for them to continue what we already frown on. So, folks, this thing is simple to understand. The reason why one of the reasons we're having the greatest failure of it all in this census, something we conducted in 2008, I participated in that census. That census. I was one of the enumerators. I did brilliantly well. Let me blow my trumpet here a little bit to juice this thing up. So, folks, that's the Americans now sounding the alarm. The census failed because, or one of the reasons to be right, one of the reasons the census has been postponed over and over is because we could not raise the money as a nation by ourselves. The $18+ million needed. Our country could not raise the money. Our government could not budget the entire amount in 4 years. They have been trying to borrow money or ask people to help us. And so in 4 years, we did not conduct census. And then the letter that they were receiving, they were stating it. So the census is less expensive compared to the election that's coming, general and presidential election, where you have senators and representatives contesting in the sub-political divisions of Liberia. So, folks, if we could not conduct a census and drag it on for 4 years because of one reason being funding, and the Americans that we are relying on to fund the election are saying Mangel should be sanctioned or has been sanctioned, the sanction Mangel. Don't you think it's more than likely for the Americans to say, well, we're not putting money in this election? Why will Liberia as a country certify Nathaniel Mangel with sanction to contest in an election that we're supposed to put our money in? Why will we want to fund an election in which Prince Johnson is contesting when we do not want to see Prince Johnson in power or in government? The American can well exercise that discretion not to fund the election. And I reminded you repeatedly that one of the reasons the whole census thing dragged on for 4 years because of money. So that same money problem may well take us beyond the constitutional time of the election. The constitutional mandated time for census, 10 years. We failed to do it, one of the reasons being money. Constitutionally, every 6 years, we need to have election. We don't have money. The government is saying it's raising record-breaking revenue, but yet the government cannot pay employees. The last time Samuel 12 was summoned, there was a writ of arrest for him by the Supreme Court of Liberia because the finance minister failed to pay the judiciary branch of government for 2 years. The judiciary branch of government have not paid the legislature for 2 months, sorry, not years, 2 months. You all may have heard about what's going on at the Liberia Water and Sewer Corporation. The Liberian government owes employees there in several months. Many of you have heard what have been happening at ROI. The Liberian government had owed people for several months. Many of you might have heard what happened at this little airport called, I think, Springfield. The Liberian government had owed employees there the last time I read up to 12 months. They've been promised and promised and promised. They could not get their salary. All across the ministries and agencies in Liberia. The Liberian government owe our ambassadors who are assigned abroad as we speak. Some of them cannot even afford their rents. They are living in places or buildings that they cannot pay for. Folks, this is how serious we are. We are squeezed as a country when it comes to funding. Don't let them fool you that the budget has grown up to 800 million and that it means that there is money. There is no money. The government is challenged beyond measures. They can't raise all the money needed. The last time, Samuel 12 is on record for saying, well, the option we have now when it comes to electricity is to either find, I think it was 10 million or so to pay, or we wait for the rainy season when the hydro will be supported by the current of the river. Then we will have, we will be able to generate more power for us to provide electricity in our country. And it was because of the same money issue. Because of the same money issue, RIA have been having issues. So, folks, everywhere you look, money is a problem. Everything, every institution in Liberia is being impacted. As we speak more so, there is an institution in Liberia called the National Identification Registry. The agency of government is responsible to produce biometric IDs for Liberians. Driver licenses, you're talking about state ID or citizen ID, and many other essential identifications. This institution is clothed with the authority to carry on that exercise. That institution has contracted a contractor to carry on the printing of biometric IDs, driver license, state ID, and other IDs. The Liberian government owes this institution or their contractor a little over $1 million United States dollars. And because the government of Liberia has failed to pay this money, fellow citizens, that process has halted at the NIR, National Identification Registry. According to the executive director, a gentleman by the name Sieh, he confirmed that yes, indeed, the Liberian government has not paid that money. And so the process has come to a complete halt. Everywhere we look in our country, something is either behind 3 times, 4 times, halted in disarray, more so because of the lack of money. And we are talking elections. So let me bring a more political twist to this. Now that I have given you a unique glance, which is a monumental glance of the nation's political state of affairs, this election, do not doubt the possibility of us failing to conduct the election within the required time or the time required by the Constitution. It is required by the Constitution that census be conducted every 10 years. Census had delayed for 4 years, more so because of money, ineptitude, and incompetence. We are not issuing driver licenses, biometric driver licenses, and other IDs because there's no money. Because no money, legislative contractors have been protesting. Because no money, there's serious chaos at water and sewer. Everywhere, folks. So I am telling you, this country may well fail to conduct election within the time required by law, just as it has failed to conduct census within the time required by law, more so because of money. It is possible. Where will we get the money from as a nation? We are relying on the Americans to give us the money. The Americans are not happy with the likes of Mange, Prince Johnson, Betwawe be in government. And these people want to participate in an election process that we expect the Americans to fund. The Americans, if they don't provide the funding, coupled with the corruption and incompetence, and now we are talking about a biometric electoral process, something we have not done before. We don't have the experience of doing it. The Americans, because of their stakes in the election, have disagreed with NEC and rejected the contractor that NEC has paid to carry on the biometric exercise, the procurement of the biometric equipment to give us that particular thing, the software, to build it for us. The U.S. government, through its embassy, rejected that. And it's the U.S. government that will, fund this election in a mighty big way. This might drag, and election day will not be prepared to have election because of some other reason. Just as we did not have census in 2018, 2020, 2019, 2020, 2021, and now 4 years later, 2022, it is a fiasco. It is a failure. Just as the very National Election Commission, just a one post that was up for election in Lofa County, the recent by-election that was held in Lofa County, that Lofa County by-election, to the best of my memory, they might have extended the time of the election for 2 times. I'm sure of one, but something tells me it was extended at least 2 times because of incompetence, because of lack of proper preparation, because the NEC is not up to the task. Some of these things that we've done, like the previous by-elections in the past, is because the citizens were involved and wanted to participate. We succeeded as a nation in those by-elections because the citizens were prepared to exercise patience. But how long can we bet on the patience and understandings of a group of people that are tired, hungry, dispirited, discouraged, and distrusting of the leaders who are leading them? How long can we bet on their patience? And if their patience run out, and when we don't have their cooperation and willingness and participation, we will be at a breaking point, folks. So let me bring it to you again. Do not doubt the possibility of us failing to conduct the election in October as required by law because of these examples that I've shown to you. When it comes to sport, though we are headed as a nation by a sport icon who earned all title there has been in the world of football, and yet Liberia, it is a disappointing failure in terms of a performance when it comes to sport. This is a monumental glance that we are indeed in trouble. In the main area, Liberia failure is so huge compared to any other persons who led our country. When Samuel Doe was in power, this guy was just a master sergeant. Liberia did well. The Doe administration, I would argue, produced George. We had to become the world best in the world, the African best and the European best, and for him to have gone to won the Golden Boots and you name it. Even though I will credit President we have for his own skills, he put in the time, but the preparation, the enabling conditions were put into play by an administration that supported the game. And so he had that space to compete. And so his talent came out. Look in Liberia today. Where do we have competition? The last time I saw this president in West Point, trying to build a mini stadium in West Point in our congested area, where you have a bunch of young people who are hungry, so they get up in the morning and go down the field and play, and then what? That's it? In serious nations, people are building sports economy. I wish President Weah had used the money he used to build his condominiums of 49 units within 8 months within his administration. I wish you have used that money to build a soccer academy for young people to practice and go to lecture and get exercise. That would be gym and all that. Maybe who have been in a much better place. Maybe that who have been a much better place to display this so much love that he has of our country. But the brother chose to acquire all those things just for himself in just relatively short period of time. And so he set this monumental, terrible example. And so the likes of Mangil are rushing to acquire mansions. The likes of what's his name, Wolokoli, I understand he's building one here and there. The likes of Fina Bono, they are just building here and there. Folks, do you see the picture? I am telling you about a monumental glance of the political state of affairs in our country. This kind of serious and sober dialogue needs to be held so that we all can see ourselves in the mirror as a people and see our leaders in the mirror. So here we are, and we think we are going anywhere. And I will conclude with this aspect of it. Why the nation longs for leadership, a concerted, an exemplary, is teachable, and an inspirational leadership. Who do we look to in Liberia for that leadership? Where can we look, people? Talk to me here. Who at least is an example in the governance space of our country? May I yell at you a little bit here? I try to remind myself not to yell when I come to this kind of discussion and presentation. Where can we look for an exemplary leadership in terms of governance? Let me let you know. There's a woman called Mary Broh. Maybe some of you admire her. If you admire her, I see where you're coming from. But I will be very quick to let you know Mary Broh is no leader. Mary Broh is no good example. Mary Broh, by the way, is an unfortunate and disappointing example. When it comes to leadership in our country, this woman uses iron lily tactics. She flocks people. She mocks people. She disrespects people. She insults people. And she is the leader? Mary Broh signed my first passport as a Liberian citizen, 2008. Mary Broh signed my passport. I was right there online. I got a unique glance of Mary Broh's so-called leadership that many of you admire. This woman uses brute force and anger and violence. She's not a leader. I've seen leadership. I've read about leadership. Nearly every day I try to read something about a leader. Mary Broh is not one. She has never, and she will never be one. But in my Liberia, Mary Broh flies as a leader, and that is a pity. Oh, all because now we don't have leaders. So what? It's like the person who is drowning. And so when you see a razor blade and someone shows it to you, you will take it and then it cut all your hands off. And then when you get out of the water now, you have many years to heal yourself. Is this where we're going, as though we don't have options? Let me give it to you here. Mary Broh. So my experience with Mary Broh This woman will walk out of her office and come to the line and yell at everybody, intimidate men and women on the line, and threaten to call police on them. Is that leadership? To threaten people? Calling police on them? I will write them, Mary Broh call police on individuals because they were misbehaving online. That's intimidation tactics, folks. If Mary Broh were a leader, she could have put into place a much better process. But in today's Liberia, as I know for a fact, many people, when they compare the difficulty and challenges Liberians have experienced under the Child State administration in getting a passport and how long it took at the time, so the dictatorial tactics, the yelling of Mary Broh, all right, threatening of individuals, and intimidation tactics of Mary Broh that led to people getting their passport a little faster. Liberians came to the conclusion that Mary Broh was their God when it comes to leadership. What an unfortunate situation. To those of us who have had the opportunity to travel, is that why you see? Why should we settle for that which is as equally bad as that we've had, as though there are no more options? This very Mary Broh was seen violating the rights of Liberian citizens in the streets of Liberia, and some people had the guts to hail her. The woman had a rattan in her hand, as though we were in the days of Samuel Doe. From what I understand, I heard that from some big brothers who are listening to, that they had some people on the post at the Ministry of Education, and they gave them latches on their bed, but because they had accused them of corruption, just as Samuel Doe will put 13 men on a pole and execute them using extrajudicial means, just because they're being accused of corruption. You do not take matters into your own hands when you are a leader. When anyone is guilty of anything, you take them to the law. Folks, I'm giving you a monumental glance. The political state of affairs in our country, Liberia. This is a sober and deep presentation. I'm not boasting that you will not find anywhere on any Liberian media platform, where we should come and soberly reflect and see our leaders in the mirror and see our country in the mirror and provoke our consciousness to be able to think deeper instead of settling for just anything because anything flies in Liberia. And because just about every little thing, whether good or bad, have flown in Liberia, we are here today and wondering how come we are behind even an Ivory Coast that got its independence, I believe 1960, if my history is right. It's doing well. Ghana that got its independence recently is doing well. Rwanda that got its independence recently is doing well. They experience well. We experience well. What kind of people are we? Why don't we demand? And in my Liberia, a Mangil is being celebrated. We have our mothers, some of our sisters are telling us on camera they will vote for a Mangil. We have serious work to do, folks. We really do have serious work to do. If we have taken our time to conscientize our people, if the media were providing the necessary education that our citizens need, the danger of electing some leaders will be in a much better place. Our citizens, our brothers and sisters will be able to make informed decisions. But what many media folks do, they sensationalize everything. They don't provide consciousness to the society. Political leaders themselves don't tell the truth. I mean, come to think about it. Everybody needs to hear this message. Everyone needs to hear this message. Mary Broh, this woman was called by the legislature to appear. She refused and did not appear. She challenged the first branch of government in our country. And a president will back her. And we think we have a democracy in our country. So let me make a fairer argument here to you Liberians. If Mary Broh, it is that example in terms of governance to move our country forward, for our institutions to be better. And that is why most of our leaders see, because Ellen used her, Weah is using her. Just as Ellen was sending her from Passport to Freeport to the birth certificate division at the Ministry of Health, and sending her to Monrovia City Corporation and putting on so many tax force and all that. It's the same thing Joshua is doing. Mary Broh was on some kind of task force to clean Monrovia for the bicentennial. How did I end? During that time, Mary Broh had the guts to look the legislature in the eyes and say their place is sting. That was a responsibility given to her by the president to ensure that Monrovia was clean for the bicentennial. I think that would have maybe included the judiciary branch of government, the legislative branch of government, because people coming, because the bicentennial were more like a tourism kind of event. I would think people want to go see the legislature, the building. But Mary Broh was saying, doing her nose like this. And what she did was she put the citizens against the legislature. They joined her in saying the legislature smells. Mary Broh got away with it. So she is working in the very government that she's criticizing in a belittling manner. She belittled the entire legislature, the first branch of government. And yet Mary Broh has a job in Liberia. I'm not saying people should go and do anything to her. Mary Broh cannot be. So the argument I wanted to bring to you, if Mary Broh is your gold standard, then I encourage our leaders who see this leadership in Mary Broh, let Mary Broh now become the model in Liberia. Let Mary Broh become her iron lily tactics that some of you believe works in Liberia. Let it become even a course at the University of Liberia. Let it be a leadership course. Let teach Liberians. Let produce more Mary Brohs. Because then we cannot rely on the so-called one Mary Broh. She can't be at every place. Because God forbid, if Mary Broh leaves, then what are we left with? Don't we have options here? They are qualified and competent Liberians across the world who can do this job. But yet, man, Liberia, since 2006, your solution has been a Mary Broh. A Mary Broh. I don't know what the Mary Broh woman knows. I don't know what level of education she has. Prior to working in government starting 2006, I don't know where Mary Broh had worked. What is Mary Broh history before coming to government? Zero. So you see everything flies in Liberia. Huh? I will give this to you. If Mary Broh is the standard, just as Ellen Johnson Sirleaf had made her to be, then Mary Broh should be a course. At the University of Liberia, it should be a leadership course. Let's train more Liberians to be Mary Broh, so that when we have Mary Broh in every ministry and agency, maybe our country will work. Are we serious here? A woman with a dictatorial tactic, who disrespects people, who violates others, who use so-called useless iron or woman tactics, that is not leadership. This is the Mary Broh because she is very unprofessional. She is not conscious of history. She is not conscious that she is a public servant, that she serves the interests of the people, and the people deserve respect because the people are her employers. When she goes in the field, not only does she disrespect them, she insults them and say all manner of things about them. This very Mary Broh had the guts to say Mandingo people are dirty people. Mary Broh, something she apologized. She didn't learn from that. The very Mary Broh now is going after Fulani and will have to write another letter of apology. How many letters of apology does the very Mary Broh, who is your gold standard for leadership in Liberia, has to write before you know that she doesn't have it? How many apologies do you want? I have to leave and go push my carton. Sometimes a sober reflection is necessary. I brought you the topic, monumental glance of the political state of affairs in Liberia. The institution that I work for is called Focus on Liberia. Maybe if you have not gotten a picture of the name of this media institution, I just hope and only hope that this presentation has given it to you. Let us focus on this country in a serious way. Look, we have educated people in the area of technology, in every area, who can replicate themselves through our educational institutions. We are in the deepest hole of all. We cannot continue on this path. We can't. We shouldn't. It will be a national suicide to do so. Look at the issue of Zogos in our country. It's almost 5 years into the Weah administration. The Weah government now is thinking about pumping, I think the last time I heard about, 9 million for youth rehabilitation in Liberia. Can you imagine that? It was with the help of the Americans that the nation arrested cocaine worth $1 million United States dollars. So if we have not had the involvement of the Americans, we'll have that heavy quantity of drugs within the society. And young people will be hooked up on that thing. And these are the people we are relying on who will become mothers and fathers in our country. So folks, you see the picture. This country needs help so much from all of us collectively. But Lord, I tell you this, our leaders have to take the lead. In Rwanda, Paul Kagame took the lead. And Rwanda is better today. During the rule of the British in England, what's his name? Mohammed Gandhi took the lead. He organized a nonviolent protest and fought for the independence of the Indians. In America, it took Martin Luther King when there was so much segregation and racism in the United States, when many blacks didn't have opportunities. It took Martin Luther King, who came forth along with other civil rights leaders, who marched, who protested for days, for months and years, and advocated. And today, there are black businesses. Blacks are thriving. Some are doing exceedingly well compared to their white counterparts. We are talking about respecting every man and every woman and every child, irrespective of race, color, whatsoever, because of their humanity. And so the nation, America, I will say that it's a proud nation today because it's much more inclusive now. Every nation has had its own ugly past. That was America. But it took men to conscientize the society, to speak to the hearts and minds of the people in the nation. And America listening, though it is not perfect, but it's so much better now. It can be better in Liberia, just as it got better in Rwanda, just as it got better in Ghana. We heard stories of Ghanaians standing in line for bread and all that. I was in Africa. Africa is self-sufficient in terms of food production. We are just near though. I believe it's the very soil. In fact, there's so much sunshine in Africa compared to Liberia. So if they are doing well in terms of agriculture, we can do well in Liberia. What is wrong with us? After we have become so sophisticated, Africa across the Kavala, you see light across the Kavala on the other side in Liberia, or in some part of the borders, you see darkness. What is wrong with us? Don't our leaders see this? The last time I saw, I think we carry it here and focus on Liberia, presidential hopeful from the LPP, Tiawan Gonglo, went to Butuo. This government and previous government have talked about how we want to do tourism, Many nations in the world today, the tourism sector has become a $1 billion industry. It is $1 billion industry, more than $1 billion industry in countries like Singapore. Maybe I shouldn't go that far. I understand Gambia is doing so much well now. And many other countries are raising billions. I'm not sure we are raising a penny in Liberia when it comes to tourism. I have to go. I don't know anything. I can't claim to know it. I just, like you, have a heart and want to see so much good. I just believe that Liberians have the intelligence to do good. And it just destroyed my spirit that we are struggling the way we do. It is because our leaders don't have the vision and they don't know the know-how. They are not inspirational. And our people too have accepted that they are beggars in their own country, that they are not the owners of the state, and to look up to politicians who they elect, who will not be in power if they don't elect them. That is a sad story. We, as a country, must change that. But before I go, folks, let me share something with you here. Today, this Saturday, the 19th, Focus on Liberia program called FOL Marketplace. That is our business and economic forum will be coming on at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. The topic, central bank digital currency. I can't explain that to you. You have to watch the show. But we are talking money in the new millennium. Digital currency. Many of you might have heard that. The brilliant minds and the have a guess that humankind will break things down for you. You do not want to miss it. Now, on Monday, folks, on the Hour of Politics, we will have Representative Experiment Masa Dopo. Mas Dopo will be here and will have a sit down with me on her quest to represent District number 14 in Monserrato County. Does she have what it takes to be the people's representative in District number 14? She has been here in the U.S. Will she not suffer from you just coming? Well, we will talk politics there. And you know I'm your guy. This is the big one I want you to pay attention to. George Preston Lobo is the vice president for Operation Unity Party USA. Josiah Imam is one of our possible presidential candidates for 2023. Tim Bwaka has talked more about this thing called arrest. They say arrest is Bwaka's plan for Liberia. I don't know what arrest is. George Lobo is an executive in that party and an ardent and fervent supporter of JMB. The topic, VP Bwaka's arrest plan for Liberia explained. Hey, I can tell you this much. My questions will be simple. They will be serious. They will unearth what the Unity Party did not see, did not take into consideration when it tried to lecture us about Tim Bwaka having a plan for Liberia. I want to know, is this actually a plan? Maybe I shouldn't put my questions out there before George Lobo runs away. But I know Lobo, he holds the ground, and he will be here. It's happening on Sunday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Folks, you don't want to miss it. I will be at my best. That would mark my best interview since this year, 2022. When they are running to be president of our country, one thing I ask them, show me your plan and I'll know you are a serious leader. On that note, I will beg to leave you. And as I leave, I have a song that will play for you. That song is called We Are All Liberians. I thought to do a sober presentation today where you will give me the opportunity to speak to you soberly, to give to you a monumental glance of Liberia's political state of affairs. I hope I was able to do it with the issues that I've raised. And the picture are painted in your minds and in your heart about where we are, who our leaders are, how they conducted themselves, and how they have treated the people, and how the people themselves have allowed themselves to be used by the ones they have selected to lead them. I just hope I was able to give it to you. By diving into examples, breaking some institution in the focus to give you that picture, for you to see what I'm telling you in a graphical or an imaginative mirror. I just hope I was able to do it. And now that I think I have tried my best, I will leave you with that song that will finish the job for me. And that song is We Are All Liberians. I promise you one thing. I will read your comments and I will read them all so that I will know your responses and your interaction during the time of this broadcast. The song We Are All Liberians is taking us home. Thank you for watching. And my name is Ansony Sieh. And this is Focus on Liberia. Enjoy the song We Are All Liberians. And bye-bye.
Liberia.